So at 15, there was a client that they contacted the Tate Theatre, which is where I was studying, and said, we need a voiceover person. And this company was called Sights Alive. And they had the very first digital system in Melbourne ever. And they were doing voiceovers for Otis elevators. So they had trialled dozens of amazing voiceover talent. And then they said, well, do you have anyone you can send along? So he sends along this, confident little 15-year-old. And strangely enough, the actual computer loved my voice. So the male voiceover ended up being a guy out of cop shop, and I ended up being the female voiceover for Otis elevators. When you are sick, when you get the flu, it's just a disaster because it's just so hard to work through the challenge of doing a voiceover and not sounding like you're ill. So what's really hard is to make sure you maintain consistency, your voice doesn't crack. Sometimes if you're going back and you have to match an old voiceover, that's actually hilarious, trying to get it to be perfect. But all the old training kicks into place and resonance and so on, so that you can actually get it done without sounding awful, and without people realising you're sick. Voice work's amazing because for me it's something that I trained to do from very early. So being able to do something you train to do, it's like you go to school, you train to be a doctor, you get to practice later. To actually be a person that studied in something and then could go ahead and do it as a career has been an amazing experience. I had something really funny happen on one job. I was working at ARN way back, and I used to sneak my dog into a lot of voiceover sessions in my handbag because it was so small. And this particular time I left him in the car because I knew they were very funny about dogs in the building at this old ARN building. Anyway, I go in and I'm doing a voiceover which is Dorothy and Toto. And I see the script and it says, it needs a dog. Well, they were just going to use sound effects. And I said to the guy, do you want a real dog? And he's like, what? So I said, I've got my dog in the car. So I race out, bring him back in, and we do this voiceover because my little Diamond, he was gorgeous, this little Maltese terrier. He used to actually sing and bark on cue, and I could make him actually sing and talk in different ranges. He was amazing. So we did this voiceover, and then it went to air, and apparently I came in a week later, and the sound guy said to me, I just had the big manager come in 2 days later and tell me, I saw a dog in this building. And he said, yeah. And he said, that moment, like absolute destiny, it came on air. And he said, well, he was in doing that. And this guy gruffed out going, well, no dogs allowed in the building. So, hey, talent in the family. My strength is actually, even in an actor's session, jumping from one thing to another. So it doesn't matter if this is a straight read about funerals and then suddenly you're playing an orange. So the strength is in that absolute versatility. Some of my best work over the years has been in lots of different arenas. Some of my favourite work has been the animation I've done, even with students. There's some amazing kids out there doing some fantastic animation, and working with them and really value adding to the scripts they have. That's been some of my fabulous stuff. But then when I was 16 and 15 and doing my first voiceovers, some of those were amazing because there was no holds barred. I would try anything. So I look at that work and I think some of it was probably some of my best work because it was so true and came right from the heart. I did this voiceover for a corporate video for a, what were they? They were a medical company, so they had all these extraordinary words. So that particular day, I should have been so tongue-tied because they were words like menzacopoline, blah, 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 all these strange things. And I must have been at my absolute peak that day. Every single word I read phonetically as if I was an expert in these amazing chemicals. Quite an amazing achievement, I thought. It's really interesting being with Cathy Evans Voice Management because if you look at the voiceover industry out there, I have an opinion that it's become very like meat market agency. It's like the more people you can get on your books, the better, and there's lots of versatility to choose from. It's not necessarily true. One of the problems in the industry is that does not give you your best result? Your best result is from your agent actually knowing the artists they have. And what I have enjoyed about Cathy Evans Voice Management is that they actually know your demo reel. They can ring you and say, look, you've got a job, you know track 6 where you do this, where you've done a montage demo. Can you stick with that sort of voice? You can walk in with a brief that's accurate and give the client what they want, as opposed to just go there and see what happens. So I believe Cathy actually gets involved, and Catherine actually get involved in some of the casting. So when somebody's asking for a voiceover, they present who they believe is absolutely the best person for the job. So they know that based on the demo reel and based on past work. So when you get to a job, you've actually been cast appropriately. You're not just one of mass that is turning up for it. So the client has an expectation. You arrive and you actually can fulfill that expectation, and that's what I actually really like about the agency. Having some training in the theatre, you definitely have voice warm-ups. I was also trained in singing, so my voice warm-ups are actually singing exercises, and they're very resonant. So before you get to the studio, essentially in the car, it's like an operetta on the way, and every now and again you get an audience in the next car. But it's really cool because you can actually take the voice to where it needs to be. If it's an early morning session, it's not so simple because you're usually tired, or you've just had breakfast, which is not always fabulous for the vocal cords. But those warm-ups will actually push you into the resonant chambers, so I do all my singing exercise. Well, there are things like ning that you actually push into the nose. They're ning, 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 so you actually utilise these chambers, which are the maxillaries. And then there's all the little tongue twisters. So if you're not in the mood and you're sort of a bit tired and you can't speak, she sells seashells by the seashore. Like, you just keep going through. There's a stack of tongue twisters that you can work on that take you through and get you speaking well before you arrive at the session. One word. Now you've got me. Versatile.